On August 2nd, tragedy struck the boxing world as two Japanese fighters, both on the same fight card, passed away due to brain injury. The first fighter was Shigetoshi Gitari, a super featherweight who fell unconscious, had a brain bleed, and died from the brain injury at just 28 years old. The next fighter was Hiromasa Yurikawa, who died 7 days after the fight with similar injuries as Gitari. As we all know, boxing is one of the most dangerous sports out there. It's two people punching each other in the face, trying to punish each other and knock each other down. But in the history of the sport, there has been over 500 deaths due to injuries sustained in the ring, and we also know the terrible damage it does to those who survive when we see fighters with slurred speech, memory loss, and Parkinson's. People ask all the time what we could do to prevent these tragedies in the ring, or at least lower the risk as much as possible. But the first thing to note is boxers know the dangers of the sport. They know what they're getting themselves into. With today's research and talk about CTE and being punch drunk, I'd be really surprised if there's a competitive boxer out there who does not know that getting punched in the head is not good for you long term. I'm an amateur boxer myself, of course not on the level as the pros, but I understand the danger of getting in the ring. I understand the dangers of getting hit in the face, alright? Getting your brain shook around. I know it's not good for me. I played football for 11 years, so I also knew the risks while doing that. Every time I step in that ring, whether to spar or to have a competitive fight, I know that there's a chance of having brain damage. I know that there's a small chance of passing away. I mean, it's a hard truth. I think of it from time to time. It gives me anxiety. I worry about it. I'm sure everybody else who steps in the ring and spars and boxes had similar thoughts before or continues to have similar thoughts. I mean, you'd be crazy if you didn't, all right? And if you don't have thoughts like that, you're being pretty ignorant on the damage that happens to your brain when you get punched in the face. We love the sport. We do it because we have a passion for it. I know what I signed up for, but I love the sport. I'm going to continue to do it. But of course, I'm doing everything I can to be smart about it. And other fighters know this too, but it's a lifestyle for them. Most boxers box because that's all they know. They grew up with it. Or they do it because it puts food on the table. So what I'm trying to say is we know the dangers, and we're not looking for sympathy, and we're not really shocked when these tragedies happen. I know that sounds pretty bad, but we really aren't shocked. We're upset for the fighters. We wish it never happens. I hate reading stories when fighters die, pass in the ring, or get serious brain damage. They go into a coma, they have to get surgery. We see the situations with boxers all the time. It hurts me to see boxers who were legends once, all right? James Toney slurring speech, Meldrick Taylor slurring speech, so many guys who were great fighters, even good people, and then we see how they end up. It sucks to see that. We saw it with Muhammad Ali. Of course, there's really no way to prove that the Parkinson's he had was linked to the boxing punishment he took over the years, but I would not be surprised, okay? I would not be surprised if that was linked in some way or another. But we know the risks, and it's just a tragic truth to it that it happens in boxing. The only way to prevent brain damage in boxing is to simply not box. That's all there is to it. Even light sparring. There's studies out there that light sparring, all right, could kill away brain cells. Just getting tapped in the head could do some damage to your brain. It's scary stuff. The brain is a very important organ. You cannot mess around with the brain. And depending on how you live a lifestyle, depending on how you box, even the slightest punches, even the lowest amount of risk could really damage it. But what we can do is take more measures to lower this amount of tragedies and injuries as much as possible. We can't make it zero unless you just stop boxing, unless you ban boxing. But we could find ways to at least lower it. Something that had a lot of conversation over the years was the weight cutting, and that makes a lot of sense. When you weight cut and you lose all that water weight, you start to lose more cushioning in your head because you're losing a lot more fluid in your head. That brain's not going to have as much cushion as it did when you're walking around naturally at your natural weight, when you're staying hydrated, when you're dehydrated, all right, your brain's not going to have that much cushioning. It's why you see a lot of these tragedies happen in the lower weight classes, not so much the heavier weight classes, despite the heavier weight classes punching a whole lot harder than the lower weight classes. When a fighter knows he could drop all this weight and then just regain it after the weigh-in and go back up to around his natural weight, well, he's going to go as crazy as possible. He's going to take advantage of that weight cutting rule because why not? Right? Why not? So what I think we should maybe implement is a rehydration clause, okay? Maybe 5 to 8 pound limit. For example, I'm 185 pounds. Let's say if I was a professional boxer, I want to fight at 154. And that's realistic. I mean, we see Sebastian Fundora do it. Sebastian Fundora probably rocks around 185, 190, okay? And he cuts down on 154, okay? So it's realistic. I mean, we saw more weight cutting. We see it in the UFC a lot, but boxers cut a lot more weight than that. 25, 30 pounds as they need to. All right, but let's say I want to fight at 154. I walk around 185. Well, it could regain all that water I cut, all that weight I cut right after my weigh-in the day before the fight, and then walk into that ring close to my natural weight, 175, 180. All right, even though I typically weigh around 185, but maybe I could get to 185. Who knows? But what I'm saying is I could gain a lot of that weight after that weigh-in. But let's say now they make a rehydration clause where I can't gain more than 5 to 8 pounds after I weigh in. Let's say I weigh in at 154. I can't weigh in more than 159 on fight night. I can't enter that ring any more than 159 or I get fined or this or that. You make a rule like that, well, I'm not going to want to cut down to 154 anymore, because if I can only gain 5 pounds after my weigh-in, I'm going to be severely dehydrated. Fighting at 159, I can't be doing that. I'd be skin and bones. I'd be sluggish. I'd have no clue where I'm at. I'm not going to want to do that. It would be stupid of me to do that. And what it could also do is make it more fair for me and my opponent now. So my opponent isn't blowing up maybe up to 190 or 195. If I could only blow up to 180, 185 on fight night. You know what I'm trying to say? Make a rehydration clause so you're not making these fighters cut down so much, alrighty? Or just make it a certain limit where fighters can only cut so much weight compared to their walk-around weight around camp, around training camp. Maybe announce a fight, sign a contract, weigh in that day you sign the contract. Let's say I'm walking around 185. I'm natural. I feel my best at 185. I'm just a 185-pound person, boxing or not. I sign that contract. I can't weigh less than 175. I can't cut down on 175. The fight has to be at 180. All right, my opponent's around 175. I'm 185. All right, we agree to have the fight at 180. You know what I'm saying? So try to fight around your natural weight class so people aren't trying to cut down 20 to 30 pounds and losing all that water weight and being dehydrated and losing all that cushion around your brain. Another thing is, of course, the better referee, better corner training, better doctor training. We need to see it more. And I know referees, they try their best. Corners try their best. Doctors try their best. But there's times where they might have too much pride. They might just be so much in the moment. The adrenaline's going, the fans are going crazy. They're just in that moment. They don't really want to stop a fight early because they're scared of the criticism that they're going to face from the coaches, the fans, and I understand that. I completely understand that. But they need to, of course, prioritize the health of the fighter first. Coaches need to stop having so much pride. And if they see their fighter getting beat up and taking a lot of damage and he's not responding well, throw in the towel. Stop trying to worry about going out on your shield. Stop trying to please the fans. This is a fighter's health on the line. This is a fighter's life on the line. Just recently, we saw Tim Tszyu and Sebastian Fundora. That fight was getting very, very good. Tim Tszyu and his quarter agreed to stop the fight. I said that, of course, when I made that video. I completely understand that. You're prioritizing your safety. You're prioritizing your life over, of course, the belts. And I understand that. That's exactly what should be happening. But, of course, it had a lot of pushback. A lot of people criticizing Tim Tszyu for doing that in that moment. Okay, and I was a person who said, of course, he doesn't have that championship mindset anymore. But I also understood completely that it was okay for him to stop the fight. And I wasn't mad that the fight stopped. I was happy for him to, of course, make that decision. That's what should be happening. And people shouldn't be booing. Absolutely not. People should not be booing when that's happening. When a doctor calls a fight off, people should not be booing. Us as fans need to take more responsibility. We got to put the fighters' safety first. A lot of time I see fights should be getting stopped. Doctors shine the flashlight in their eye for 2 seconds and say they're good. That can't be happening. Stop the fight when you see something is an issue. Stop worrying about what's happening with the fans. Stop worrying about the reaction from the corner. If the corner reacts harshly, maybe, give them a fine or something for coming after the referee for trying to stop a fight early. Coming after a doctor when they're trying to stop a fight early. So what I'm trying to say is, of course, the corner, the referees, they just need to be smarter. Stop worrying about the fans. Stop worrying about the reaction from the coaches and the fighters, and just prioritize the health of the fighter. And then the last thing I could think of is just a 3 knockdown rule. Really try to bring that back. If a fighter gets knocked down 3 times in a round, that's not good for his brain. All right, he's getting shook, having to hit the canvas. That's not good for his brain in that short amount of time. 3 knockdowns where you get punched that hard, where you hit the canvas, I mean, that can't be good for your brain in that short amount of time. It's not like 3 knockdowns throughout the whole fight, but 3 knockdowns in 1 round, that cannot be good for your brain. So a 3 knockdown rule is if a fighter gets knocked down 3 times in 1 round, stop the fight. I know people might not like that. I know people are so used to the olden days, but we see a lot of the older fighters, how they end up being. All right, let's try to change that. 3 knockdown rule, I think, is a smart thing to bring back, championship fight or not. Or maybe have a 3 knockdown rule across 2 or 3 rounds. If a fighter gets knocked down 3 times in 2 rounds, end the fight. And maybe you don't want to have it in 1 round, well, maybe give it 2 rounds or 3 rounds. Okay? So I don't know. I just think that's something that they could do. I just feel like we just got to be better. We got to be focusing it more on it. We can't just accept that, okay, well, boxing is a dangerous sport. People die. Getting hit in the head is a bad thing. And we just can't accept that. We got to actually try to find ways to make it as safe as possible, without changing the game up too much. And those 3 things I mentioned, all right, fix the weight cutting, all right, make more rules, make it more strict on the amount of weight a fighter could cut or gain after their weigh-in. Of course, have better referee training, better corner training, and better doctor training. Be more strict on when a fighter should be going back out for that next round or not. And then the next thing, implement that 3 knockdown rule. Absolutely try to do that. I think that should be implemented. I'm not saying we should shorten the rounds anymore. I'm not saying we should shorten the amount of rounds. Okay, don't shorten the time in the rounds, but then also don't shorten the amount of the rounds. But I'm just saying we can make more of these rules and just start to do it one by one. We don't got to do it all overnight, but just put more focus, put more attention on it. People should not be having to die in the ring. I get it. Getting brain damage and getting a concussion and maybe some slurred speech later on in their life. I mean, I'm sure people will much more take that than being in a coma for the rest of their lives, or being paralyzed for the rest of their lives, or of course dying. Alrighty, so just try to do what we can to save the sport and save the fighters' lives, because that's what's most important. The fighters' lives. We get so caught up in the entertainment, trying to see wars, but these are people, right? These are people. These are sons. These are fathers. These are brothers. You know what it is. Maybe sisters. These are daughters. Okay, so just focus on that. And I wish we could see more of that change. Will we? Probably not. But I'm just saying, that's what I think we could do to make boxing a little bit safer. If we could just make it a little bit safer, that's a win. That's a win. Let me know down below in the comments what we could do to make boxing safer. Let me know what you guys think. I'm sure I didn't add everything we could do. Let me know, guys. I'm out. Peace.